And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Is Bigfoot real? Watch this video and find out. I've seen several of those, and there's always been sensationalistic stories. Stand around the campfire telling people that in the forest there's Bigfoot. Or once I was on a ship and I know I saw a mermaid or whatever. That's what this game is about. It's called Legends and Lies. Now, Legends and Lies, designed by Diane Sawyer, is a rummy game. It's a rummy variant. Rummy is a game in which players go out by forming melds or groups of cards from their hands. There have been many great rummy games that have been variants that have been designed, most of them by Mike Fitzgerald, although I noticed that he was a playtester on this game, so that's always good news. Let's take a closer look at how this game works, and I'll be back. At the beginning of the game, one card is turned over, and you have a deck here, which is the unknown, and then you have face-up cards, which is the tabloid. At the beginning of a player's turn, they're going to draw one card from the top of here, or the top card of the discard pile. They then will play cards and do different actions. At the end of their turn, they must discard a card. If you cannot discard a card, you cannot take other actions. If you discard a card and it's the last card of your hand, you got rid of all the rest of your cards, then the round is over. These are very similar to typical rules of Rummy. What you're trying to do in this game, like Rummy, is make melds, where you're going to play 3 cards of the same type in front of you, trying to prove that that particular monster exists, like these giant snakes, or El Chupacabra, survive the night, or the Jersey Devils, or the Fiji mermaids, which are most definitely not manatees, or extraterrestrial life forms, or these cards, which are Yetis or Bigfoot, you decide when you play them, or the Loch Ness Monster, the most famous of the group. Once one person has a meld in front of them of a certain type, other people can add to that meld, putting the card in front of them, or the same person can. So let's say you have 4 in front of you, I can also play a Loch Ness Monster in front of me. There are also other cards in the deck, like these expedition cards here. They're essentially wild cards. This one here is a blurry photo. That's a proof card. It can be played to any existing meld, or one except for the Piltdown Man, because the Piltdown Man is, he's one of the melds, by the way. He is not actually unknown. It's just that you have to actually find the bones for him. Or there's a proof card, which is kind of like a wild card, but worth more points for each of the different melds. For the mummy, for the giant snake, for an alien autopsy film, an underwater flipper photo, a broken horn, or a footprint cast. And so players have the opportunity to play these, but at the same time, other players can play hoax cards. You can play a hoax card in turn to discard an expedition or a proof card in play. You also have these phenomenon cards, which you can play to do things. Like this one here lets you discard 1, 2, or 3 cards from your hand and replace them with an equal number from the unknowns. Or here, draw 3 cards. You keep 1 and put the other 2 on top of the pile. Or discard a card and replace it with a card from the tabloids. Or crop circles. These are special cards that you can play, and then they can add to the extraterrestrial set. So, like I said, you're going to keep playing this game until one person is out of cards. After that player goes out, everyone has to discard a card to the tabloids, okay? And so players discard cards there. Now, discarding cards to tabloids is important. At the end of the game, you're going to take the tabloids pile, and each card in the tabloid pile that's an expedition is essentially somebody, some funny story in the tabloids, you know, like Loch Ness Monster marries President of the United States, or whatever. Really weird stuff. And so each of these will make the person who has the largest meld of that type. So let's say there was a giant snakes in the tabloid pile at the end of the game, and you have 1 giant snakes in front of you, and I have 3 in front of me. I would have to discard 1. If there was multiples, I would have to discard more than 1. But there's not that many cards of each type in the game. If you manage to survive after these cards have been taken out, you're simply going to add the points for each of the piles that you have. And The Bigfoot Yeti cards, there's 2 different melds of them, but the cards in the tabloid pile will count against both of them. If you have 10 or more points on a meld, this one only has 8, but let's say I had 10 total amongst all the players, then all the points are doubled for whichever players have those cards. Now, it is possible for there to be a shutout if someone manages to get 10 points for the extraterrestrial life forms only, and they're the person who goes out. They have to get 10 points and be the person who goes out. They will get points and everyone else will get 0. You'll then start another hand and continue to do so until one player has 100 points. It's a 2 to 3 player game, but you can play in a 4-player game with partnerships of 2 each. I really like the theme for this game. I like the whole legends and lies and the tabloids. When I was a kid, I used to read the headlines of all those papers and wonder why my parents never bought them. I mean, they found Bigfoot. Why are we not looking at this? The artwork, I'm not super fond of it. In fact, I would have almost went with a different direction, with some black and white, famous pictures of these supposed creatures, and I don't know, to give it a little bit more of an eerie feeling. I mean, I'm glad that there's colors, but I don't know, if the artwork felt a little cheesy and almost took me out of the theme a little bit. There's a lot of text. These are really text-heavy cards. I really wish that there could have been maybe a simpler way to play this game. It's a little bit convoluted for my taste. That isn't to say I disliked it. It was a fine rummy-style game. There's fewer cards than I'm used to and a lot of different suits, and so when you get every card counts. The unique thing about this one, I think, is that the cards in the discard pile count against the sets that have been gained over the course of the time, which is the theme. You know, the tabloid stories diminish the fact that something is supposedly real. The special cards were okay, and the hoax cards that attack other players and such, but overall it was okay. It was a decent rummy game. Like I said, there's some fantastic ones out there. Jack the Ripper, Al Capone. Some people like Wyatt Earp. I'm not a big fan of it, but there's and what these games need to do is play very quickly, very well. Now this one is a 2 to 3 player game, which is nice, and it has that 4-player partnership thing, which works well, and I like it. I think the artwork and the somewhat convoluted rules, because you have to check every card and say, okay, this one can be played here. I would have added a little bit more symbology to show which cards match which in the corners or something. I think that would have helped a bit. I mean, they do have some symbols to show which cards are played and then discarded, but like the matching sets, I think that would have been faster. And I'm just not, it just feels like there's too few cards. Now maybe, you know, maybe experts at Rummy could tell me why this one is much better than other ones. And again, I don't want to say that this is a bad game because I did enjoy playing it. It's just that I felt like it was almost too much trouble for what it was worth. It could have been streamlined a little bit more. So change the artwork, streamline, and this could be a great Rummy game. As it is, I think it's a solid theme. I think the game plays well. It's just not amongst the best of the Rummy games.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door now.
There.